Hi everyone, this is Marie Blue Angel, and I am back with the demo for Imperial Grace. I'm very excited to get back into it. It's been about a week or so since I've been able to play, but I'm excited how I will continue ruling my empire, or at least trying to get to the throne for the demo. I'm not exactly sure. If you're new here, feel free to check out the last video, which is the first of the demo walkthrough or playthrough. It's not even a walkthrough, it's a playthrough that I did last week. This is Imperial Grace, where we, oh my gosh, I forgot her name. But the woman in red and the white hair is the heir apparent and is trying to prepare for her ascension to the throne. And obviously, there's more than a few challenges along the way, but with the help of her advisor, Alden de Valbleu, as well as her general, Alexander, I don't remember his last name, I'm sure we'll make it. But we have to use our wits and make strategic decisions in order for us to get what we want. And so we will continue and see what happens next. Anyways, let's get into it. Also, last time I feel like the voices that I used for Alden and Alexander were basically the same, so I'm gonna try and make them different. Who knows how consistent I'm going to be, because I'm never consistent with these voices. Anyways, Alden. Your Grace, this is a little premature, but should you become Empress, you will need to manage the kingdom's policies. I'd like to make sure that you're ready for such a task. Are you going to test me, Alden? One can always learn. I mean, am I ready? Sure, but one can always learn more. I do need that since I have not played probably whatever is going to happen in the next part. I missed that. As you already know, the kingdom's policies influence how your subjects, noble or otherwise, view you, but also what resources will be available to us. You can set tax rates for the people and the nobility. As you may have guessed, the higher they are, the less happy the people will be, but the faster the coffers will fill up. But there are many other things, much more subtle. For example, you can decide how open to trade our borders should be, or which sectors of the economy you'd like us to focus on. Okay, great. I like how immersive this game is in the sense of like really letting the player choose this particular game playing mode and getting to be in charge of all these different mechanics. And while it stresses me out, obviously, because I personally do not have training to be a leader of an empire, I don't know about you. But it is fun to get to try it and, get to play it, I'm sure, in the full game. I'm very excited when this full game comes out. I think I mentioned before, but I have previously backed the Kickstarter campaign for this, so I'm looking forward to when this game is fully out and I'll be able to play it in depth. I actually didn't get to play the demo before I decided to back it. I just saw the story, what it was going to involve, the political intrigue, the art, and I was already hooked. So I hope, seeing a bit of this demo for you is good, just to see, what's going to happen and increase your level of anticipation while we wait for the full game. Anyways, back to Alden. We must also consider how to protect ourselves from our neighbors, especially bearing in mind Vargas's warlike inclinations. But maintaining an army is very, very expensive. As such, investing in diplomacy may offer better results in the long run. Okay, good to know. And I know that we can't access, wait, Vargas must be... I was gonna say, can we access a map? Yes, we can access a map. This is Calidia. This is where we are. Vargas is over here. This is one of the territories, and we talked about Meridian in the last video. And there's Omb, the Austral Gulf, Issyria, the Belliquois Ocean, and that's it. Okay. Burnow. And finally, we have to manage the priest. Their influence on the people is immense, and they have infrastructures all over the nation. Offerings made to them are never wasted. We've set up regular periods of time during which we collect earnings, but there will be a short delay before the consequences of any changes you can make be seen. Can be seen. The story alternates with phases of gameplay which are triggered between two scenes. During these phases, you will be able, among other things, to modify your kingdom's general policies. Gains will be distributed at the end of the gameplay phase. Okay, that is much clearer. Yes. Okay. I needed to, yes. Right, our name is Lydia de Turinvel. Turinvel. Yes, even if it's all very theoretical. That's true, but the best way to approach a subject in a more concrete manner is to look into it yourself. Even if I'll only be doing this work after my coronation, may I try my hand at it now? I'm sure there are things that I'd like to change in my father's policies. Probably. Yeah, I would assume so. Okay. Oh god, okay. Okay, let's just start at the bottom. Here. So currently, whatever default politics strategy that we have now will result in the following. Currently, we have 15 tokens for people, and current strategy, we would lose 5 people resources. Nobility, there's 15. We gain 0 from our strategy currently. Money, 1, plus 1 on the current 10. Religion, plus 2 with the current 10. Plus 1 with army with the current 10. Plus 2 with goods on the current 10. And influence, plus 2 on the current 12. Earlier, when I played last time, we had 15 influence. And I've only spent on influence so far, I believe. So I don't think I've lost anything else because everything is a good like 15, 50. It's, good, like, what do you call that? Iteration of like money or whatever. Anyways, let's start with the top. Taxes. The people will understand, and you'll receive a moderate amount of money. What if I make it high? They will be angry, but money will flow endlessly. Well, I mean, we're not doing poorly on money. If I put low, I think moderate's fine. Let's look at the other things. Economy. Your economy will be focused on the exploitation of raw resources. We would gain 1 money, lose 5 people for like, employees and people who would, what do you call that? Farm for raw resources, but we get 3 goods. We focus on farming. My economy will be focused on getting agricultural and food products. We gain 5 people. I guess that makes sense in terms of like feeding the population and then goods as well. And then crafts. I don't want to focus on I don't want to focus right now on crafts. Maybe farming. I'm gonna do farming. Okay. Offerings. If you're wondering, Chantal, what is your policy? Marie Blue Angel, what is your policy on all of this? I don't know. It's giving me a lot to think about, given that I've never had to really think about it before. But anyways, offerings. You will help finance a good part of the temples and academies across the realm. That is good, though we would lose money. But we are getting that in taxes, so maybe that is what we focus on. I don't know, let's see. Five people. Why would it lose? Because the people like the religion. Okay, you will only get meagerly. I mean, maybe moderate. Okay. I do want to take some risks. But I'm trying to see what would be the best course. I mean, I don't want to because I'm looking at offerings and then the army. Uh, you know what? I'm gonna do dismantle army high on this, and then let's see what else can we do, and I'll make a final decision later. Right now I have army on dismantle. Your armed forces will be reduced, but they will be cheaper to maintain. I don't know how long a game phase is, but we can always reassess that. Small taxes are levied on products between. Well, I'm gonna leave that to controlled. Diplomatie. You will send at least one ambassador to each neighboring country. I think that's always a good thing. You know what? I'm fine with maintaining the army. I'm fine with this. We're gonna do this. Really, I feel like what I changed was economy focusing on farming and the offerings. Everything else is pretty like in the middle. Anyways, that would give us 10 plus people. Nothing focusing on nobility specifically, but I think we would be okay. Well, I don't know. Isn't important like when you're, especially when you first ascend to the throne? Like I think diplomacy is. I mean, in general, I think it's important, but it would be good maybe to send full delegations. I mean, I guess I don't really know what the implications of this is. I maybe think about it too hard, like when you're just about to ascend and you still have to win people over. But maybe let's do this and we can change things as necessary. So plus 10 on people, plus 5 in nobility, minus 2 on money, plus 3 in religion, plus 1 in army, plus 2 in goods, and plus 3 in influence. And we can come in like later and reassess money in the next iteration of this. That sounds most excellent to me. Okay, great. Spring, day 15, morning. It's been another week, and our pluses are here. Your Grace! Your Grace! Dawn had barely risen when I heard a kerfuffle at the door, and I immediately recognized Robert's voice. I got up with a groan and quickly slipped on a dress, trying to make myself presentable before opening the door. High Priest, what's going on? I tried to remain as neutral as possible, but I was burning up with a mix of anxiety and excitement because I had a solid guess as to what this was about. The Quadrator. He answered, Your Majesty. Nervous, he handed me 2 letters bearing the recognizable seal of His Holiness. Your name is written on them. I didn't dare open them, Your Highness. Exhilarated, I looked at the 2 pieces of paper that were about to seal my future. One seemed official, while the other was explicitly for my eyes only. I would have liked to be alone when reading them both, but clearly had taken Robert all he had not to break the wax seal on the official letter, and he now stared at me impatiently. I mean, I'm sure you're like, you're so much anticipation, Robert. My throat was dry as I grabbed a paper cutter to open the correspondence, and my heart was beating so fast I had the impression everyone in the room could hear it. Okay. What does the Quadrator say? Okay. Lady Lydia of Ternfil, daughter of Magnus the Fifth of Ternfil, the Fierce, Emperor of Calidia. The 4 have spoken and have recognized you as the legitimate heir of the crown of Calidia, by virtue of your blood, and despite your gender. Well, thanks. By this decree, I convey the word of the gods. May your governance be respected by all the just and the pious. May your rule prosper and never stray from the 4's faith. Vermeer Quadrator by the grace of the 4. Okay, that's the official letter. I was shaking so hard I felt my legs give in, and I had to sit on my bed so I didn't fall over. Okay, congrats, though. I had done everything in my power to make this moment happen, but now that it was upon me, I was engulfed by all the emotions I had accumulated in the past week. Robert seemed to understand me, and he bowed to leave me a few long seconds so I could take in the Quadrator's words. Finally, he spoke up. "That's marvelous, Your Majesty. I knew the Four would acknowledge your legitimacy." Almost timidly, I nodded and tried to recover my usual composure. With the Quadrator's support, my coronation was sure to happen. But that didn't mean I was about to get rid but that didn't mean I was rid of my enemies or other contenders. I couldn't let my guard down. I couldn't let my guard down yet. I don't know why it's so hard for me to read that sentence. Yes, the time has come for everyone to know the truth. Gather the nobles in the castle at dawn, and prepare the pigeons. He nodded, a grave expression on his face. Yes, we can't wait any longer. The secret of your father's death couldn't have been kept indefinitely, in any case. It was true that his absence had been going on for a while, and a possible illness worried people just as much as a possible death. It was fortunate that these letters hadn't taken too long to arrive. I'll be there. I need to finish getting ready. Of course, Your Majesty. I'll have the bells rung, but at such an early time, I don't suppose we can gather everyone in less than an hour. I approved with a polite nod, and soon I watched him leave and close the door. Finally on my own, I collapsed in the bed and let myself gloat. Congrats! I whooped in pure childish joy as I read the Quadrator's letter over and over again. I knew that I had plenty of challenges ahead of me, but this was my first victory against traditions, and I intended to savor it for as long as I could. Only after a few long minutes had passed did I decide to open the second letter. I know, I'm dying to know what's in this letter, which was addressed to me personally. Lady Lydia of Turnfell, be aware that your threats cannot shake the faith that the believers have in me. Only my wish to preserve them from potentially bloody conflicts has guided my decision not to be offended by your contemptible lies and to support you despite them. Keep in mind, nonetheless, that I don't appreciate these methods, and that you have made yourself a dangerous enemy. Lady Lydia, one cannot defy the Four with impunity. Blah 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 the Quadrator. I got up with a sigh and held the parchment over a candle long enough for it to catch fire, before throwing it into the cold fireplace. I had expected a reaction of that sort. I just preferred not to leave behind more traces of my methods than necessary. Needless to say, I didn't regret a thing. Even if he acted unconcerned, I fully believed that my threats had helped to sway him. Now, it was the court I had to sway, and I knew this wasn't going to be an easy task. Spring, 3 days later, in the afternoon. I don't know who question mark is. Make sure not to overexert yourself, Lydia. You're spending your days locked up in this office. You should get out a bit to clear your head. Come take a walk with this old lady. I didn't know it was an old lady. Okay, but that's fine. I had left the door open, and although I hadn't heard Marjorie come over to me, I wasn't surprised, since her perfume, which she applied too liberally, had filled the room. I was like, I'm looking at Marjorie's earrings. So pretty. I almost felt nostalgic for a moment. She looked so elegant. Contrary to what she seemed to suggest, I wasn't here for pleasure. I was overwhelmed. Invitations, solicitations, promises. I had spent the last 3 days flattering Callidian nobility to ensure that nothing would interfere with the coronation in 3 weeks' time. And I still had a lot to do. Oh, perhaps you can fool everyone else, but I know you're far from being an old lady, Marjorie. My laugh made her, my laugh, my reply made her laugh, a hoarse and joyous sound that bellied from what I just said. Oh, I still have the same quick wit I had when I was 20, but I'm afraid my whining bones disagree with you, sweetheart. Come on, don't be cruel. You already broke my poor heart when you didn't let me in on the secret. I put my quill down with a sigh and closed the inkwell, hoping its contents would not dry out. Look at us. We're fancy. She had taught me many things, and even if I had grown stronger than her in a few areas, it was obvious that she still used guilt like no one else. She almost made me feel bad for hiding my father's death from her. You know full well I didn't have a choice. The information had to be disclosed to as few people as possible. I know, sweetheart, but I would have liked to be there for you. These past few days mustn't have been easy. No, they weren't indeed. So we're in the garden now. As promised, I quietly walked by Marjorie's side through the garden, but we couldn't take one step before some servant or noble offered me their condolences. I'm so tired of pretending to be sad. I know your father was a flawed man. She paused, looking at me as she seemed to hesitate to say something. I looked at her, intrigued. There was so much contempt in her voice when she spoke of his flaws that she obviously knew something about him. Something I probably didn't. But no matter what anyone says, he was your family, your blood. You shouldn't hate him like that. It's not healthy, especially now that he's dead. I'd sensed from her tone that I'd get nothing more from her, at least not today, and I didn't insist, draping myself once again in my indignity. No, that's too easy. You can't just die and expect that all your mistakes will be forgiven. It's not as if he chose to die. I don't know what voice I'm doing for Marjorie. Cause she's so. I don't think she would sound super old. It's not as if he chose to die. And so, it doesn't change anything. She sighed, and I decided to change the subject before I had to listen to another lecture on the importance of family bonds. But since we're speaking of forgiveness, I need your help. Suspicious, she frowned, although she kept walking calmly between the flower beds. I would like it if you gave me Fear Castle. That old, dilapidated fortress. What for? Pretending to admire some insects that were flying around the planters, I hesitated for a second. I needed the fortress to buy the Faram's loyalty, but Marjorie had held a deep hatred for them. I didn't like lying to her, but I couldn't run the risk that she refused my request. Keep things vague. She didn't want to tell us about whatever she knows about our dad. You're the one who taught me to keep my cards close to my chest. All I can say is that it's a strategic location from the perspective of 3 separate duchies, and that I might need it. Like you said, it's been left to rot ever since the Faram revolt. It's nothing more than an old pile of rubble and steep and barren land. You won't miss it. She frowned, but shrugged. Okay. Do as you wish. Having an empress owing you a favor isn't a bad thing, after all. Thank you, Marjorie. I knew I could count on you. Relieved, I finally let out the breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Knowing the affection Marjorie held for me, I knew that I'd end up convincing her. But as I had a meeting with the Fromm heir in 4 days, I didn't have a lot of room for errors. When one less issue weighing on my heart, I continued my walk with a bounce in my step, forgetting for a few minutes the court's problems and plots. Okay, great. Ooh, we're making progress. Spring. Day 22 in the afternoon. Are you the Faram heir? This was my first time ever meeting Theodore of Faram. I had heard him described as a cold and distant man, but I still didn't expect him to be so glacial. Well, here we are. Okay. Let's look. Love it. Love the character design. Okay. I waited for him to deign reply to my greeting as courtesy demanded, but the silence between us was deafening. He only stood there staring at me, impassive, without even so much as a good morning or a nice to meet you, while I had to keep smiling not to lose face. I had better things to do than engage in a staring contest. Consequently, I swallowed my pride and gestured to one of the chairs around the staff table where a large map of Calydia, had been laid out. Okay, let's check on the map where Faram is, because I have no idea. Like, wouldn't it be on here? Okay, Fear Castle is what we want. And we asked for Marjorie. Faram. Where's Faram? Am I missing it? Like, would it be somewhere in here? Okay. I imagine you must be tired after such a long trip. Please, sit down. I thought he was going to stay standing there, but he did finally sit down without another word while I took a seat not too far from him. Like I said in my letter, I'd like for the Terranfell and the Faram to reconcile. The tensions between our two families have lasted long enough, and I imagine your sudden desire to make peace has nothing to do with your upcoming coronation. The Monseliats are eating out of your hand, but the Voldor will never support you, which means you very much need us. Okay, let me look on the map. Is that like the names? Okay. There's just different families. Okay. Different family names. Okay. Different nobility. Coming as he was from a lineage with a somewhat barbaric reputation, he had done a fairly clever analysis of the situation. But I didn't let that stop me. Very much need is a bit strong. Should I remind you that I have the support of the Order, and by extension, the Four? The people will follow me. That said, I do wish for my coronation to go as smoothly as possible, and the rest of my rule as well. I like to avoid bloodshed altogether, if possible. And I fear that the ancestral enmity between our two families might lead us to just that. Neither you nor I were born when the Faram Revolt took place. It's up to us to decide if we want to perpetuate the cycle of conflict, or if we want to build something new. He took on a thoughtful expression and observed me with renewed interest. It's easy for you to forget. You're on the side of the victors. You haven't been rehashing your resentment for 20 years. Precisely. Wouldn't it be easier for you to forget as well? Especially if it's been haunting you for that long. Even if we were inclined to consider your offer of a reconciliation, how could we trust you? I won't give you a history lesson, but that revolt didn't happen for nothing. He was following me exactly where I was leading, and it took me some sort to repress a smile and keep a business-like countenance. Firstly, I'm not the same person as my father or my grandfather. It's unfair to distrust me as a result of their actions. And secondly, I'm ready to make a gesture of goodwill, if the Faram are ready to make one as well. I'm listening. If you openly support my ascent to the throne, I'm ready to return to your family the Fear Castle Citadel and the lands that go with it. Oh, okay, kind of shocked face over here. This time I savored the true surprise in his eyes when I handed him the deed I had taken the time to prepare. As you know, it was confis- as you know, it was confiscated after the revolt, since it's located at a strategic crossroads between Terranfell and Montiliet. I thought it would be a strong gesture to return it to you, but also quite a symbol of trust. After glancing over the sign pledged, Theodore looked at me once more, with defiance this time. There's no doubt that my family will appreciate the gesture. I was already basking my victory when he continued, his voice cold. But as for me, it only makes sense. It makes me see that you're one of those politicians ready to use every dirty trick in the book if it will give you what you want. I had been warned that you're the rightful heir of that snake who used to lead the Montiliet, but now I'm seeing it with my own eyes. So yes, indeed, we will accept your offer and support your coronation, because unlike you, we stick to our word. But you should know you're not fooling me. I'll remain at the palace to make sure you don't stab us in the back as soon as you achieved your goals. Okay, Theodore. That makes sense. That makes sense. So he's gonna do what he must for his family, but he also is not gonna blindly trust Lydia, which is fair. We'll see. So you're just gonna be at the castle. You're just gonna live here now? I don't know how far anyway. I don't know how far anything is, I guess. Anyways, we'll continue. In the end, his analysis of the situation, or indeed of my character, wasn't as clever as I had thought. I was ambitious, there was no denying that. I wasn't shy about it either. But my desire to make peace was just as sincere. Stay at the castle if you wish. Dukes are welcome here at any time, but you'll get eaten alive at the court if you always speak your mind so plainly, my lord. He shrugged condescendingly before getting up. Oh, I'm very capable of defending myself, Majesty. I just choose not to use the same I just choose not to use the same venom as you do. That doesn't mean I don't know how to protect myself from its sting. Okay. No one liked being called a snake, but even if it was unpleasant to be treated with such hostility by someone to whom I have never done anything, I had gotten what I wanted. I didn't wish to risk making him change his mind by starting an argument. Fair. Time will tell. I do hope you'll change your mind about me. But as long as the Fromm uphold their end of the bargain, you are free to think however you like. Don't say that to me as if you were doing me a favor, Your Grace. Even empresses don't have dominion over people's thoughts. And in order to keep me from having the last word of our pointless sparring, he immediately turned on his heel and slammed the door. Furious, I was engaged in a deep breathing exercise when Alden walked in. How did things go with Theodore Thuram? I shrugged with a sigh. I suppose it was all right. At least, the Faram should support my coronation. That's all that matters. How about you? Did you manage to convince Leon? As you suspected, he's not inclined to support you. Apparently, he and his brother fear that Clydia will become a second Issyria. That's that country to the left, or the bottom left of the map, I think. I raised my eyes to the sky, not hiding my exasperation at these words, as if it were enough for a woman to lead the empire for us to become a matriarchy. Gonna be a lot more work than that, but you know what? I like the sound of Assyria already. Have you at least convinced him not to openly oppose the coronation? Yes, as you suggested, I implied that a civil war wouldn't be good for business, and that you were easily to manipulate. Was that enough? Yes and no. The man's smarter than I thought. He took this as an opportunity to claim the position of treasurer. Treasurer? Look at him go.
Since he believes you're incompetent, he thinks that the only way for him to ensure that the country stays on the right track, rather, and that the Voldor's economical interests are preserved. Upset, I bit my lips while I pondered the implications of such a nomination. I didn't want him to stand in my way at every council meeting, but there was no valid reason for me to refuse him this privilege either. I imagine before asking for that position, he encouraged the current treasurer to retire. That's correct. A pretty house by the seaside is waiting for him, and now he can't wait to be gone. I imagine we don't have any other choice then. I'll summon Leon tomorrow and pretend to be a naive ingenue who's happy to let him take on big responsibilities. I sighed heavily, and Alden stepped towards me with a discreetly amused smile. Are you sure you'll manage? Manage? Playing the easily influenced ingenue. I sighed, offering him a reassuring smile. It would not be fun having tea with such a conservative man, but there was nothing insurmountable about it. Oh, don't worry about me. I can play dumb when I need to. I've spent my whole life appearing less dangerous than I really am. I should be able to pretend, just this once. He might have some nasty surprises down the line, however. He nodded, with a gleam of pride in his eyes. I trust you, then. Great. Okay, spring. 3 days later again. Interesting. Things are coming along. Your Grace, news of your nomination to the throne has spread quickly. We received a letter addressed to you from the Queen Maeva of Iziria. My respects, Empress of Calidia. I wish to write you so I can congratulate you on your recent nomination to the throne, as well as offer my condolences for your father's death. Assuming power is a heavy responsibility, but I have been told that you are very capable, and I know that Calidia is in good hands. Calidia and Iziria have always maintained solid diplomatic relations. I hope that they will continue, nay, prosper, under your rule. Up until now, the matriarchs have always been opposed to non-commercial negotiations, but your nomination has made them curious. We dare to believe that in your presence, my emissaries and myself will cease to be subjected to the patronizing condescension that your predecessors invariably displayed, and that made my country's past rulers so wary of further interactions. The gods whisper to me that your ascension to the throne signals the dawn of a new era for the continent. Therefore, I wish to support you as much as I can. With the matriarch's assent, I have decided to mandate an emissary. Emissary? I get that word wrong. Gosh. I have decided to mandate an emissary whose role it will be to liaise between our two nations. Her name is Asha Isabis. She is an exceptional woman who I hope will be welcomed in your palace as she deserves. With all my sympathy, Maeva, Queen of Iziria.
Great. That's wonderful news. I'll need as many allies as possible during my rule. Indeed, diplomacy is a delicate art, but it's fundamental for Calidia's prosperity. You'll need to woo the neighboring countries and ensure their goodwill towards us. The diplomacy is not available for the demo, that's okay. But we'll talk about that later. For now, we have a coronation to organize. Okay? Coronation. It's about 11 days after. Is it coronation day? We look good. Let's see. We look fancy. Sparkly. The big day had finally come. Impatient and nervous, I paced my bedroom while checking my hair and outfit for the umpteenth time. Nothing was easy as per usual. I was supposed to display poise, elegance, and grandeur, all while remaining humble. All right, then.
Despite all that, I felt ready and dignified, and I only waited to hear from Alexander, who would escort me, since my father wasn't in a state to do so.
Hi. Oh, look, you're wearing your fancy general outfit too. Nice.
Time was passing by at an infuriating slow pace when finally he knocked and walked into the room, clad in his ceremonial attire.
There's a cool like little line right here. Also, the fur. Have fun.
That armor and the pompous cape that went with it didn't suit him, and I suppressed a smile when I saw him squeezed into it.
Ready, Your Grace.
Almost timidly, I nodded while he politely bowed to let me pass in front of him. Then he followed suit, respectfully walking one step behind.
Ooh. Okay. Coronation Day.
Her Grace, Lydia de Terrenfell, Princess of Calydia, Duchess of Terrenfell, Lady of Vermont, blessed by the Horror. I closed my eyes and savored this title. Excuse me. I closed my eyes and savored this title that I was hearing for the last time. When the herald would announce me next, I would be Empress of Calydia.
Is it Calaja? I'm gonna say Calydia. Oh, okay. We know everyone except this man on the right. Pretty sure. Because we met Master well, I mean, I don't know. There's someone also right here that I can't see. Because that's Master of Murmurs. That's Marjorie. That's Alton. Obviously Alexander, Robert, Theodore, and then this guy here. So we'll see. These two are new. Maybe they're one of the other. They're just one of from the other dukedoms? Question mark. Anyways, I didn't remember having ever seen the throne this packed. Clearly, when I had been told that the entire castle had gathered here, it hadn't been an exaggeration. To try and hide my nervousness, I walked at a slow pace, my head held high, my eyes leveled at the throne. But my curiosity slowly got the better of me. And while I tried to remain as dignified as I could, I let my gaze wander discreetly, in search of familiar faces. Alton, of course, stood right next to my throne, his face impassive, but his eyes bright enough that I could see the pride reflected in them. Robert was there too, my future crown already held in his hands. He did his best to appear as imposing as his function required him to be. In the nobles section, I recognized Leon of Voldor. Oh, that's the one who opposed our ascent. Okay. Surrounded by his family, conversing with the other nobles who were vaguely familiar to me, and also believes that we're just dumb, and is now the treasurer. To my surprise, I also spotted Theodore leaning against a pillar, his gloomy aura seeming to hold people at bay so that he wasn't drowning in unknown faces. As I passed by her, Marjorie gave me a smile, and I felt her perfume reach me, calming me despite its loud scent. Finally, the last step stretched before me, and I suddenly realized that I couldn't hear the crowd's hubbub anymore. The only sound was my heart beating in my temples. Ceremoniously, I knelt in front of this throne that was still forbidden to me. Soon I had cause to praise whoever had the brilliant idea to place a small cushion under my knees. The blessings were proceeding at an infuriatingly slow pace. I listened to them with only half an ear, but I still displayed my most serious and focused face to honor the solemnity of the ceremony. The day before, Robert had asked me if I wanted to celebrate tradition by taking the name of one of my predecessors, or if I'd rather start my own dynasty. Will I get... If I honor my ancestors, your reign name will be Melisandre II. I'm gonna keep her my name.
I understood the importance of traditions, but I was much too proud of who I was to give up my name, my identity. I wanted it to carry with pride for as long as I would rule.
I didn't know the sermon by heart, but I knew it would be soon ending, since the whole place seemed to grow livelier. With each passing second, both the crowd and Robert's voice vibrated with renewed excitement until the key moment came. I closed my eyes and braced myself for the weight of the surprisingly light crown that he delicately placed upon my head. Rise up, Lydia the First de Tyrannfell, Empress of Clydia, first of her name, Duchess of Tyrannfell, Lady of Vermont, chosen by the Four, and blessed by Horror. You shall bow no longer, since from this day and until your death, in the name of the gods, I entrust you with the charge of guiding your subjects and making Clydia shine bright for decades to come. Congrats. Woo! Look at us. Good job, Lydia. Slowly, I rose and turned around to sit on the throne that had been meant for me. Then I opened my eyes to look at the crowd. It suddenly went quiet, and an almost religious silence settled in for a few seconds. Long live Empress Lydia the First! Da 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 da. Good job, Alexander. Alexander's voice resounded next to me, oddly loud, and as it shattered this almost dreamlike moment, cheers arose from all sides in a spectacular chaos. The general enthusiasm was contagious, and I caught myself smiling and waving at the crowd with a bit too much vigor. I mean, celebrations, you know. Oh gosh. Next day, in the evening. The party was in full swing, and if I was still beaming, my head was starting to hurt with the incessant salutations of people come to pay their respects. You should empty this glass into a flower pot, and ask one of the servants to pour you grape juice instead. Or maybe I had too much wine. If I was being honest, I couldn't remember how many times my glass had been refilled, but one thing I knew, it never stayed empty. Even if Marjorie was probably right, I pouted. Come on, Marjorie. Am I not allowed to have a bit of fun? It is my coronation day, after all. She shook her head with a tender smile. You can do this precisely because it's your coronation day, sweetheart. Some people might be subtler about it than others, but everyone is watching you and judging you. She was right, and I knew it. I had let myself relax perhaps a bit too much, carried away by my enthusiasm. That acknowledgement didn't stop me from heaving a deep sigh of despair. Well, I didn't come here to coddle you. I know you're perfectly capable of managing the situation. I just wanted to officially congratulate you. No one deserves this title more than you, and you'll make an incredible empress. Her face sparkled with pride and affection, and I felt my heart melt under her praise. Her opinion had always mattered a lot to me, and I felt myself go back to the little girl I once was, one who always sought her approval. I hesitated for an instant, but finally I let myself gently hug her, making sure not to spill my glass on her in the process. Look at us. Cute. Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you for everything. She kindly stroked my hair, and I stayed in her embrace for a few moments, just long enough to regain control of my emotions, which were threatening to make me cry. She gently patted my back to remind me of my duties, and I finally let go of her, my face now wearing a more neutral expression. Go on, sweetheart. I won't keep you any longer. People are queuing to talk to you. She was right. As much as they tried to hide it, many people stood nearby, waiting for an opportunity to pounce on me as soon as I'd be free. Oh, we saw you earlier. The quickest to mark was a young woman I had never seen before. Oh, were you from Azyria, maybe? One look at the pretty dreadlocks she sported, decorated with small golden jewels, told me her background. Magnificent coronation, Your Grace. Her melodious accent convinced me I was right, and I flashed her a courteous smile. Thank you. Lady Asha, are you not? She seemed surprised for a second, then her face lit up. Well, I'm flattered you recognized me before I could even introduce myself. I don't know who spoke with me to you, but I do hope they said good things. She gave a small laugh. She gave a small laugh as if to brush off this pleasantry, which I knew had a much deeper meaning. Okay, this is from a person from Azeria, so this is Asha. I love the outfit. All the gold, too. I love everyone's outfits in general in this. It's really fun to see. After all, I had indeed heard a lot about her. Both from Queen Maba, who had warmly recommended her to me, and from Robert, who had tried to paint her as an ungodly heathen and temptress the minute she had set foot in the capital. Okay, Robert. Of course, your queen keeps showering you with praise. Then allow me to return her kindness and to tell you how fantastic Mava is. She'll make a formidable ally. Her way of talking about her ruler made me quirk an eyebrow, but I didn't mention it. After all, Assyrian customs were much different from our own, and her relationship with her queen was none of my concern. As long as she didn't use the same casual tone while talking about the Khalidian nobility, there would be no issue. In any case, I do hope Khalidia is to your liking, Lady Asha. Unfortunately, I still haven't had the time to visit your beautiful lands and to taste your many specialties. Therefore, the question may be a bit premature. She gave me a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes, which made me see that her answer was an elegant way to not speak ill of the place without lying. Now that it was my castle and my nation, it did upset me a little, but I couldn't be mad at her for finding the place a bit drab. My father had never had a keen eye for interior design. I was about to ask her more futile questions when Robert stepped into the space between us. The gesture was overtly rude, but his position allowed him to act in that manner, and I turned away from Asha to listen to what he had to say. Your Majesty, please forgive me for interrupting, but I must speak with you on a topic of the utmost importance. He barely hid the dirty look he gave Asha. She understood the message and gracefully curtsied. I'll go breathe some fresh air in the gardens, if you'll excuse me, Your Majesty. Bye, Asha. Nice meeting you. I mentally took note of where to find her if I wanted to continue the conversation and bowed to her in lieu of goodbye. Then I focused my attention on Robert, wondering with some trepidation if something bad had happened. What's going on? Don't worry, Your Majesty. Nothing that will spoil your night. I just wanted to make sure that you were taking my warnings about the Assyrian diplomat seriously. I don't find her trustworthy at all. I had to hold back a sigh. It was quite distressing to see him go to such trouble only to interrupt my conversation with a foreign dignitary. Please be comforted. She wasn't inviting me to dance naked in the sea in honor of the snake goddess Sif. I had said that in a playful tone, hoping to lighten the mood, but he looked even more upset. You should take this issue to heart. These people are insidious. They seem nice, you let your guard down, and by the time you realize you've fallen into the trap of a witch, it's much too late, says Robert. I didn't have the patience to hear more of this, and I took an offended expression. I wasn't really religious, but that wasn't the point. Even if I had my doubts about the real existence of gods, I knew the influence of the order and how powerful religion was in general. Unlike Alexander, I couldn't afford to openly proclaim my doubts or let anyone assume that I wasn't a good believer. Fortunately, I was very good at pretending to be offended. Do you believe my faith could be so easily shaken, High Priest? Taken aback, he immediately softened and apologized profusely. I relaxed in turn. I'm taking note of your words. and I promise I'll be careful. But you must also understand that you simply cannot say such things about a foreign guest, especially not in public. This could have serious diplomatic consequences. He scowled once more, but didn't say a word, politely bowing instead. I understand, Your Grace. A short silence passed between us before he turned away, mumbling something about prayers he had to make. For the first time of the night, I found myself alone, and no one came to talk to me, perhaps for fear of getting caught in the fallout from this tense conversation. I enjoyed that respite, and decided to go talk to... We can talk to Asha, we can talk to Theodore, we can talk to Alexander. We're gonna go bother Theodore. Maybe if we do, we can still be silent for a little bit, you know? Mr. Grumpy. Oh, look at your outfit. How fun. He wasn't hard to spot since he was nonchalantly leaning against a wall in the most deserted corner of the throne room, snubbing the drinks as well as the buffet. A few ladies were ogling him, but they didn't dare come close, and I could understand them. His gloomy face wasn't inviting me to chat with him either, but as Marjorie had reminded me, these kinds of parties weren't meant for my own enjoyment. They, too, were tools of the political game. It mattered to strengthen my hands for the Faram, and even more to show the court that our enmity was now in the past. Lost in his thoughts, he didn't seem to see me until I leaned back on the cool marble wall next to him. The party isn't to your liking, Lord of Faram. If he was surprised, he didn't show it, and he raised his eyes to meet mine before scanning me from head to toe. I'm not particularly fond of these displays of vanity, no. That was certainly a take on things, but it didn't give me much room to react. I grew thoughtful as I considered what I should say, unsure how to communicate with someone this closed off. The idea struck me when I heard the tune of a waltz floating through the air. I immediately straightened up. You should invite me to dance. It was worth it, if only to see his stunned face. In fact, he seemed so shocked that his scowling gnome-like mask disappeared, making him look surprisingly fragile. I beg your pardon? You said it yourself. We're in the middle of a show, and appearances are everything. I can see that you're not willing to chit-chat, but people are watching us. Neither you nor I want the court to think that the crown and the Faram are still at odds. So, shall we dance? Oh. That is, unless you don't know how to dance, of course. He hesitated, but my last comment seemed to tick him off, and he dryly dusted off his jacket. Of course I know how to dance. Well then, prove it. This time I didn't leave him a choice, and I curtsied as if I had just accepted his invitation. He looked at my hand with suspicion, as if simply touching it was going to burn him, but he finally took it and led me a bit farther towards the center of the room, where other guests were already dancing. Okay. We get a little dancing scene. I love that. I was almost surprised to find his fingers pleasantly warm. His behavior was so cold that part of me expected his skin to be freezing, like that of a devilish creature. Out of curiosity as much as out of deference, we were given much more room than necessary, and other couples stepped aside or completely left the floor to observe us. My talents as a dancer were all right, but they weren't extraordinary. I felt nervous despite myself as I tried to keep my head held high and my back straight, as dignified as possible. You're suddenly very tense for someone who threw a tantrum to be invited to a dance. Of course, he had felt it, and a smile, sincere for once, showed that he had fun teasing me. That made me grumble. Just lead properly, will you? Look at us. Okay. glowing.
I heard a hint of a laugh while he waited for the right measure and slid into the dance with surprising fluidity. He wasn't lying. He knew how to dance. Very well, even. Despite his badly positioned hand, a bit too high and not firmly enough to properly lead me, I could anticipate his movements with ease. He was a good guide, and his own gestures were precise and gracious. On the one hand, I was glad that everything was working out, but on the other, it bothered me a little to acknowledge his merits.
Just, just compliment him.
Then I knew I must not let my pride dictate my behavior. I was here to strengthen our bonds, after all. Well, it seems you weren't bragging. You're an excellent dancer indeed, Theodore. My compliment seemed to catch him off guard, almost as much as my invitation to dance had. I felt him falter for a second, and he almost lost the perfect rhythm he had led us to so far.
You're not so bad yourself.
I knew this was the best I'd get out of him, and I smiled while he led me into a slightly stiffer twirl. Neither of us opened our mouths until the last measure played, and we finally separated in an elegant curtsy under scattered applause.
Cute.
Well, I thank you for this moment, Theodore. I won't keep you busy any longer. I see you're having quite some success. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at the young ladies, rather, who had gotten close and now waved their fans while ostensibly ogling the Lord of Faram. Perhaps they had more respect for etiquette than I did, since none of them dared to accost him and openly ask for a dance. Still, he sighed and glared at me, apparently holding me responsible for the sudden attention he was receiving. I ruthlessly abandoned him to his admirers, and was surprised to see him play the part of the courteous gentleman after all smiles and polite comments. Clearly, I was the one for whom he refused to make such an effort.
It's fine. Oh my gosh. Day whatever? Okay, great. I think I'm gonna have to leave it here. I'm not sure when the demo's ending, but that's a lot. Lydia is now Lydia the First, Empress of Clydia. And I like seeing the game mechanic for how to increase different resources. And we met Theodore, the Theodore Fradam. He was important. We got to dance with him. And I'm intrigued. I wonder how far this is gonna go and like how much we're gonna establish. But I really like it, and I really like that it kind of keeps you on your toes. And the art is so pretty. And I'm also loving the music and everything. And the dialogue is really nicely paced and everything. So that's also fun. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please don't forget to press the like button. And if you'd like to see more of the demo for Imperial Grace, feel free to subscribe to my channel so you can see when I post. Anyways, let me know what you think so far, also, of the video. Who are you most interested in terms of potential love interests? I know Theodore is one, Asha's probably one, and Alexander. Maybe Alden is one, question mark? I'm not exactly sure. He looks... I mean, why not? He could be. Hell, like Robert could be. Sorry, Robert, you're a priest. Anyways, it's fine. Let me know. What do you think? How would you rule? What choices would you make? I'm always interested in that. I play these things and I never know what I'm doing, especially with this. I obviously have never been a leader of a nation, but it's been really fun. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!